Good morning, dear students. So we are continuing the topic breathing and exchange of gases. So in that the thoracic chamber. So the thoracic chamber is bounded by. So the thoracic chamber is bounded by. How the thoracic chamber is formed? So on the dorsal side we can see the presence of vertebral column. On the ventral side this is the sternum. You can see here I am marking with the red color. Yeah, this one is the sternum. So on the ventral side there is a sternum, right? On the lateral sides you can see the ribs. These are the ribs. Then on the posterior side you can see the diaphragm. So the thoracic chamber is formed by the vertebral column on the dorsal side, sternum on the ventral side, ribs on the lateral side, and on the posterior side we can see the presence of diaphragm. Then volume in the thoracic chamber is called as thoracic volume. It's very important. Then what is the volume in the lungs? The volume in the lungs is called as intrapulmonary volume. I am representing intrapulmonary volume as IPV. So this is called as intrapulmonary volume. Let us see now. Intrapulmonary volume depends upon thoracic volume. Remember that. If thoracic volume increases, intrapulmonary volume increases. If thoracic volume decreases, intrapulmonary volume also decreases. So we can alter the thoracic volume. So we can change the thoracic volume by expansion and contraction of the muscles. But volume which cannot be altered directly is called as intrapulmonary volume. So we cannot change the intrapulmonary volume. We cannot directly change the intrapulmonary volume. We can change only the thoracic volume. Okay. If the thoracic volume is changing, intrapulmonary volume also changes. Now let us see what are the events in the respiration. The first, these are the events. You have to remember, I told you in the class also. So these events you have to write in the sequence. This is one of the important questions. They'll be asking you in the sequence. So breathing or ventilation. So it is the movement of air in and out of lungs is called as breathing. Diffusion of gases. Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide across alveoli is called as diffusion of gases. Transport of gases. Transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide by blood. Diffusion of gases again. Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood and tissues and cellular respiration. Oxidation of food to liberate energy is called as cellular respiration. So all these events occur step by step. First breathing occurs, after that diffusion, after that transport, after that again diffusion, after that cellular respiration. So you have to remember the sequence of these events, right? You go for the next. So let us go for the mechanism of breathing. So movement of air is caused by pressure gradient between the atmosphere and lungs. Remember that. So air moves in and out of lungs depending upon the pressure. So always the pressure should be negative, then only the air can move. So the type of pressure gradient is negative. So when does inspiration occurs? When does expiration occurs? Inspiration occurs when intrapulmonary pressure is less than atmospheric pressure. So atmospheric pressure means the pressure of all the gases. So an atmospheric pressure equal to 760 mmHg, millimoles Hg, right? Millimoles mercury. So if the intrapulmonary pressure is less than atmospheric pressure, then inspiration occurs. So let us imagine that the intrapulmonary pressure is 758 mmHg and atmospheric pressure is 760 mmHg. So pressure here is less than when compared to the pressure. So this from here air enters into the lungs. Then that is called as inspiration. Expiration occurs when intrapulmonary pressure is greater than atmospheric pressure. So intrapulmonary pressure is 762 and atmospheric pressure is 760. So air from lungs enters into the atmosphere. So this is called as inspiration and expiration. Let us see now. Pressure gradient is due to muscles. So the pressure gradient is generated by the muscles. Muscles that helps in breathing. So they are external intercostal muscles, internal intercostal muscles, muscles of diaphragm and abdominal muscles. Then what are the muscles that helps in normal respiration means external intercostal muscles and muscles of diaphragm. This is one of the important questions. Then muscles that helps in forced breathing. So muscles that helps in forced breathing includes internal intercostal muscles and also abdominal muscles, right? And also abdominal muscles. So I'll mention one more muscle, that is inspiratory muscles. What are inspiratory muscles? They'll be asking you this question also. Which of the following are the inspiratory muscles? Inspiratory muscles are external intercostal muscles. And second one is muscles of diaphragm. So these are called as inspiratory muscles, right? So let us go for the next mechanism now. So inspiration and expiration. What is meant by inspiration? Taking air into lungs is called as inspiration. Okay, taking air into lungs is called as inspiration. Inspiration is an active process. Why it is active process? Because here the contraction of muscles occurs. If the contraction of muscles occurs, some energy is utilized. As energy utilized in the contraction of muscles, we call that one as active process. So which of the muscles are undergoing contraction? External intercostal muscles and muscles of diaphragm. So let us see, when the diaphragm contracts, that means when the muscles of diaphragm contract, diaphragm is becoming flat. That means generally we see that, yeah, this one is the diaphragm. Imagine this one as the thoracic chamber, and diaphragm is dome shaped like this. Generally the diaphragm is dome shaped. When the muscles of diaphragm is contracting, the diaphragm is becoming like this. That means the diaphragm becomes flat. So the volume of thoracic chamber increases in this direction. In this direction. So which direction? It is anterior side, it is posterior side. So volume is increasing in anterior posterior axis. Then when external intercostal muscles contracts, volume increases in this direction. Dorsal side and ventral side. So volume is increasing dorso-ventrally. So thoracic volume is increasing now. As the thoracic volume is increasing, intrapulmonary volume also increases. As intrapulmonary volume increases, intrapulmonary pressure is decreasing. Intrapulmonary pressure decreases. So intrapulmonary pressure is less than atmospheric pressure. So air from outside enters into the lungs. So this is the inspiration. We have to go for quite opposite for expiration. Sending out air is called as expiration. Expiration is a passive process. Why I am using here the word passive process means here relaxation of muscles occurs. When relaxation of muscles is occurring, there is no expenditure of energy. Energy is not at all spent. So what are the muscles that are undergoing relaxation? Means same. The external intercostal muscles will relax and the muscles of diaphragm also relaxes. When diaphragm relaxes, what is happening? The flat diaphragm is becoming again dome shape. Diaphragm becomes dome shape. Then the volume is decreasing in this direction, right? The volume is decreasing now. Which direction, ma? In the anterior posterior axis, the volume is decreasing. When external intercostal muscles relax, then the volume decreases dorso-ventrally. So this side and this side is relaxing. So thoracic volume is decreasing, intrapulmonary volume is also decreasing. When intrapulmonary volume is decreasing, intrapulmonary pressure is increasing. So just imagine that you are compressing the balloon. When you are compressing the balloon, what is happening? You are pressing the balloon to reduce its volume. So pressure inside the balloon is increasing. In the same case here also, pressure increases inside the lung. So intrapulmonary pressure is greater than atmospheric pressure. So air is sent outside. So this is called as expiration. Right. Then how many times a healthy person can breathe? A healthy person can breathe 12 to 16 times per minute. A healthy person can breathe around 12 to 16 times per minute. So pulmonary volumes are measured by spirometer. This is also one of the important question, and this is also one of the important question. Let us see the pulmonary volumes and capacities. So I have already drawn this diagram. Okay, again I will draw for you people. Yeah. So what are the pulmonary volumes? How to measure them? So I am taking one lung here as an example. I am not going to represent it as a graphical method. I am taking a lung. Yeah, this is a I have taken one lung. This is the lung. Imagine. Already inside the lung there are two volumes present. One is the residual volume and ERV, expiratory reserve volume, right? So first one is tidal volume. Volume of air a person can breathe or expire during normal respiration. So tidal volume means what? Volume of air a person can inspire or expire during normal respiration is called as tidal volume. So how much volume a person is inspiring means that is the tidal volume is this one. So tidal volume is this one. That means a person is inspiring this air and is sending out the same way. That means the tidal volume is inspired and tidal volume is expired. How much is that? It is 500 ml per breath. So a person is breathing 12 to 16 times. Then how much he is breathing per minute means 500 into 12 or 500 into 16. You will get around 6000 ml to 8000 ml of air. Right? So that is called as tidal volume. Then inspiratory reserve volume. Additional volume of air a person can inspire by forceful inspiration. Additional means what? Addition to tidal volume. So in normal breathing you are taking tidal volume. Along with your tidal volume you are forcefully inspiring. You are undergoing forceful inspiration. When you are undergoing forceful inspiration you are breathing more air. So you are inspiring this air. So you are taking in this air extra. This one is called as inspiratory reserve volume, IRV. Okay, IRV means what? Additional volume of air a person can breathe in by forceful inspiration. So this is the what we call IRV. So how much is that? It is around 2500 to 3000 ml. So normally you can breathe tidal volume is 500. In addition to that you are breathing 2000 extra or 2500 ml extra. So that is called as inspiratory reserve volume. Next one ERV. Additional volume of air a person can expire by forceful expiration. Right? In normal expiration you are sending out PV. Okay. In normal expiration you are sending out only tidal volume. But by forceful expiration you are sending out PV plus ERV. Right? You are sending this one also. So not TB, you are sending out this one. So during forceful expiration, you are sending additional volume of air in addition to TB. That is called as ERV. That is called as expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume is 1000 ml to 1100 ml. Then what is residual volume? Volume of air that always remains in lungs after forceful expiration. Okay, you are undergoing forceful expiration. So after forceful expiration also some volume of air is remaining in the lungs. So this air is not sent outside. So the air which is not sent outside by forceful expiration is called as residual volume. That is around 1100 ml to 1200 ml. Residual volume cannot be measured by spirometer. See here, the RV remains. You can send this one outside. You can send this one outside, but you cannot send this one. The RV remains always in the lungs. So residual volume cannot be sent outside. So the volume of air that remains in the lungs even after forceful expiration. By forceful expiration you are sending out ERV but not RV. So that is called as residual volume. So this completes about the pulmonary volumes. Yeah, we'll continue. The next one is pulmonary capacities. How you calculate the pulmonary capacities? Pulmonary capacities can be calculated by adding the pulmonary volumes. So what is the use of these pulmonary capacities? Pulmonary capacities are useful to measure the pulmonary functions. It is useful to measure the pulmonary functions. Now let us see the pulmonary capacity. First one is inspiratory capacity. Inspiratory capacity is represented as IC. What is inspiratory capacity? Total volume of air a person can breathe in after normal expiration. So you sent the air outside. By normal expiration, you are sending only tidal volume. So tidal volume is sent out. So how much air you can breathe in by forceful? How much air you can breathe in after normal expiration means you can breathe in tidal volume and you can breathe in inspiratory reserve volume. Okay, you can breathe these two. So what is the definition we are telling? Total volume. Here I am using the word total volume of air a person can breathe in after normal expiration. So normal expiration means you are sending out TB. Okay, that means you have to inhale TB and you also can inhale IRB. So inspiratory capacity equal to tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So this is your inspiratory capacity. What is expiratory capacity? Total volume of air a person can breathe out after normal inspiration. So due to normal inspiration, you are inhaling TB only. So after inhaling TB, how much you can send outside? You can send tidal volume. You also can send ERV, right? So you can send out this one, and you also can send this one. Okay. By normal expiration, you can send out this one. By forceful expiration, you can send out this one. This is your expiratory capacity. Okay. Expiratory capacity means what? Total volume of air a person can send out after normal inspiration. Okay, so that is called as EC. EC is represented as tidal volume plus ERV. Let us see the next one. Functional residual capacity. So volume of air that remains in the lungs after normal expiration. So normal expiration means what? In the normal expiration, you are sending out only TB. When you are sending out TB, what is the volume left in the lungs again? ERV plus RV is left in the lungs. Okay, expiratory reserve volume and residual volume is left in the lungs. So that is called as functional residual capacity. So volume of air that remains in the lungs after normal expiration, right? So that is called as functional residual capacity. The next one is vital capacity. Maximum volume of air a person can inspire after forced expiration. Okay, after forced expiration, how much volume of air a person can expire? I'll explain this one first statement. After forced expiration means what? You are sending out TB, you are sending out ERV also. So what is the maximum volume of air you can inspire after forced expiration? Means you can inspire ERV, you can inspire TB, and you also can inspire IRV. Okay, that is called as vital capacity. Or maximum volume of air a person can breathe out after forced inspiration. So due to forced inspiration, you are inspiring TB and also you are inspiring IRV. Now how much volume of air you can send out after forced inspiration? Means you can send out IRV, you can send out TB, and also you are having the capacity to send out ERV. So vital capacity equal to IRV plus TB plus ERV. Right? Then what is total lung capacity? Total volume of air accommodated in lungs after forced inspiration. So what is the volume of air that is present in your lungs after forced inspiration? Means due to forced inspiration, RV is present, already RV is present, always RV remains in the lungs only. So due to forced inspiration, IRV is coming, TB is also coming, ERV is present, RV also present. So here the total volume. What is the total volume? Means you have to count ERV and RV also. So total volume of air present in lungs after forced inspiration, that equal to IRV plus TB plus ERV plus RV. So here IRV plus TB plus ERV plus RV. 1. Otherwise vital capacity plus residual volume. Otherwise inspiratory capacity plus FRC. Okay, inspiratory capacity means what? IRV plus TB. ERV plus RV is equal to FRC. Or IRV plus EC plus R. EC means TB plus ERV. Or inspiratory capacity plus ERV plus R. Okay, so these are the functional residual capacities. Okay children, we'll see the next topic in the next video. Thank you.